White extremist attack on mosque in New Zealand. Terrorism alleged extremist attack in Netherlands. What is debate? Is Islamophobia going to make its path in Western world? What would be the implication of Canadian budget on federal elections? We are debating those issues in TAG TV's News and Views with Halima Sadia today. And I'm joined by Dr. Sharda and Tahir Aslam Gora in my studio today. So, Tahir, my first question will be with you. What do you think attack in New Zealand mosque is due to Islamophobia? What is your take on that?
It's very complicated situation. I do not endorse the term in Islamophobia. I would call it anti-Muslim bigotry. It's a very, very complex issue, as I said. First of all, there are so many phrases or terms coined on media these days. Some say it's a white nationalism, some say it's a white nationalism, some say it's a supremacist attack. I would say it's an anti-Muslim bigotry. This is a time we need to engage ourselves into open debates that why there is so much rise of Muslim bigotry, anti-Muslim bigotry. Because it's not just like as politicians today and media today are furthering superficial debates, superficial phrases. Communities from across, community leaders from across communities need to sit together. And I would say now we are living in a cross terrorism age where there is action and reaction. I cannot justify any terrorist attack through this action and reaction thing. As we have gone through the manifesto of that terrorist who did attack on New Zealand mosque, that manifesto clearly shows us that how much hatred is growing within communities. And it's not just one-sided story, because we have witnessed Islamist attack in 2019 only, from January 1st until now, roughly 561. So there are a couple of such horrible attacks as this guy did in Netherlands, actually in New Zealand, and then followed by an alleged terrorist attack in Netherlands. So it's a very complex situation. Why I'm not calling it Islamophobia? Because as the whole Western world and the media and the whole world is coining this word, because Islamophobia is equated with anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism happened to be institutionalized and constitutionalized in many countries. That's not the case with Islam or with Muslim community. So I cannot call it Islamophobia. I would call it a reaction of a bigoted guy who happened to have sort of a white supremacy. I wouldn't say white nationalism. I'm not against positive kind of a nationalism. But the thing is, it's a very, very, very sensitive debate, and we need to stir this debate. We need to engage ourselves into open dialogue.
So, Dr. Saab, I'll come to you. When we see this kind of different kind of feedback from that, yes, it's a very, very sad situation. But how it is affecting us in Canada, and what do you think in global situation, how should we take it? What is your take on that?
Halima ji, thank you very much firstly to inviting me, and welcome the viewers. As Tahir said, any kind of extremism I don't like. That's my personal view. Extremism actually divide the society. I personally feel that ultimately the rightist element in any society, whether it is in white, Hindu, Muslim or Sikh, they are bound to rise when they are suffering at the hands of one community for the last 20, 30, 40 years. Some people can say no, that the white community supremacists, especially Americans, they have done a lot in Afghanistan, in Iraq and other things, and that's how people have become against so-called white community or Christian community. Now this division will not lead for the betterment of the humanity. That's number one. Number two, when these kinds of attacks come, whether it is possible in future with the dialogue we can stop it or not, my view is no. Unless and until the particular forces from one community, especially from Muslim community, start coming out openly and condemn all kind of terrorism. I have not seen most of the people when there are terrorist attacks. I remember that 9/11 and afterwards thousands and thousands of attacks in different parts of the world. Now when we see those attacks, it is bound to affect the minds of the other generations and mind of the other communities. They particularly start thinking that we have been either isolated or we have been attacked by one particular community. So I would say dialogue is a wonderful thing, but with dialogue the community leaders, they have to come out openly and absolutely keep themselves away from any kind of terrorism, which they don't do it. Now in New Zealand, in Christchurch, 50 people died, 48 got hurt. Now those 50 people who died, they were absolutely innocent people. But how it happened, why it happened, that's where we should go. Why the white community as such, so-called, I mean people are calling them now, they have become extreme rightists, they are becoming like Hitler, Mussolini. I don't know about that. But we have seen that kind of a movement coming up in Europe, near about in every country. We have seen in France, we have seen in Germany, we have seen in other parts of Europe. Now this will not stop unless and until the leaders and particularly the religious so-called heads, they must come out openly and criticize and condemn each and every act of terrorism on this earth.
So we call it a cross terrorism. We have consensus on that. So what is your take on that, Tahir? How would you explain it to us?
You know, this sort of a cross terrorism just began, and we have to stop it right from the beginning. As Dr. Sharda said, I agree with him that the Muslim community leadership, they need to come forward and they need to denounce each and every terrorist act done by any community, because world don't hear from us about condemnation of terrorism very openly, very clearly. For instance, about 2 weeks ago, there was a terrorist attack on church in Nigeria. So there was no condemnation from Muslim community, and of course, that creates sort of an alarm, within other communities, that why Muslim community leaders are not speaking when those kind of terrorist acts happen in the name of their religion. So the biggest debate I can generate here, based on that New Zealand terrorist attack, the whole Western world got united against that terrorist. That was a wonderful thing. From Prime Minister of New Zealand to Prime Minister of Canada, everywhere, almost everywhere except few exceptions, everyone condemned the terrorist coming from their own community. That's the kind of a thing in terms of cleaning dirty laundry in their own place. But unfortunately, when terrorist acts are being done in the name of Islam by some Islamic terrorists, we don't speak generally. So they are cleaning their dirty laundry. They are trying their best to curb all sorts of ideology, but we are not. So that's the kind of a conflict still we see today.
As Dr. Gora said, most of the leaders of the world, they condemned it, including Mr. Trump, President of USA. The question is whether we can control it or not. That's fine. Everyone has condemned it. Okay, but when the leader of number one nation in the world does not say anything against white supremacists in America, when he says this particular community need to learn lessons and I am there to give them lessons. When we talk like that, what we are asking simply that yes, now the time has come, we should pick up some kind of a war with these people, some kind of war with words or with other things, but that is not happening, and I don't think it will happen. Condemnation is good thing, but whether it will affect the so-called rightist movements in Europe or not, I doubt very much that it will affect right away.
I was going to come to that thing, that how do you see it historically, if we see that there had always been incidents, but why it is so much into the form of religious things now? Power struggle is always there. It had always been there and it had always affected the people. But the way we are involving religion, we are going backward. What do you see that?
Halima ji, let me tell you one thing. As long as every religion says that we are the best in the world, this thing is never going to finish. Religion, so-called leaders of the religious movement, they must start saying that try to study other religions also, and all the religions teach only one thing, peace. They say that, but there is one particular religion which they say don't even bother to look into any other religion. This is the only religion which is the best in the world, and you have to make it sure that everyone follows it. That's number one. Number two, even the small religious groups, for example Sikhs, they are just only 4 crores in the world. Even they claim that they are the best, they are the most scientific 21st religion in the world. Hindus say no, we have the best scientific. As long as we are preaching that we are the best, and we must indoctrinate that among our children into their minds, it will be very, very difficult to have some kind of peace in future. It will continue that way.
I'll come to you, Tahir. As we see that you said that they should come and condemn, as Western people are condemning this whole issue, that this is a bad act and it should be taken care of. So are we lacking as a community to acknowledge that we have to be objective towards any situation, and we have to realize and acknowledge that yes, this is wrong, and wrong, spade is a spade. What is your take on that?
You know, as Dr. Sharda said, condemnation is just the beginning. It's not the complete solution. But unfortunately, as I said earlier, that we are not condemning vocally and overwhelmingly yet. So we are not yet at first stage to cure the cancer. So after condemnation, after recognizing the disease, our leadership around the globe need to come forward in terms of curbing extreme elements within the community. That's the only practical approach. I understand that human beings don't live in 100% ideal situation, but at least the path towards idealism should be evident.
Tahir, what do you think about there is so much poverty. Out of 7 billion, 3 billion people live in poverty. There is no education for 3 to 4 billion people. All these factors, unless and until we take care of those factors, which is the poverty, the education, and bring the standard of the people up to that level where they can live properly and nicely, that these kind of exploitations by religious leaders will continue. What do you think about it?
You know, actually, I wouldn't even blame poverty and illiteracy at this point, major factors behind Islamist terrorism, for instance. We have witnessed very clearly thousands and thousands boys born in Western world joined ISIS. They were neither poor, they were neither illiterate. We have seen 9/11 terrorists who they were not illiterate, they were not poor. We have even witnesses Islamic extremists attacking churches and attacking their own mosques. Even in Pakistan, Syria, they were not kind of illiterate or poor people. So, I mean, it's about the mindset, unfortunately. If that mindset persists in Western world, and as we have seen this man from the anti-Muslim bigotry group, I would say, this guy born in Australia, even traveled to Pakistan according to some news, well traveled, he has written a manifesto. So he didn't stop himself from going to doing massacre of innocent people. So it's all about mindset, and this mindset, prevailing mindset, is growing based on action and reaction. We cannot justify actions, we cannot justify reaction, but the world leaders from all community need to sit together and need to find candid talk. I'm not saying dialogue just for the sake of dialogue. Need to find candid talk on the complex issues and then need to curb it.
So, Dr. Saab, I'll come to you. If we see as Canadians, so how should the Canadian society respond to that, and what is the expectations in this situation, which is very open and very clear?
First of all, we are a very small community. We are only 36 million people, and at this moment, I can say in Canada, there is some kind of harmony amongst people, because we call ourselves as a multiculturalism in this country. How long it will persist, how long it can stand, it all depends upon the policies of our leaders. I think leaders have to be very careful when they bring people into this country. They should make it sure that their background is absolutely clear, not criminal. Now, sometimes what is happening may be under compulsions, political compulsions, vote bank compulsions. We bring people here, we don't know anything about them. And then ultimately, they can be persuaded by certain elements in the society to pick up the weapons, go and kill someone. And we have seen it did happen a couple of times. Okay, that's number one. We have seen here even white supremacists killing people in the Quebec City Mosque. So these kinds of things. Tahir says no. It is not only the uneducated, I mean illiterate people, no. Even the literate. Sure, literate people and the rich people, they have the resources. So they have come forward in the last 20, 30 years. But all I am saying, as long as there is the poverty, as long as there is an illiteracy, it is easy to manipulate those people than who are educated. Who are educated, they make it their own decision and they decide, yes, we are going to become this and that's what we are going to do it. You know, that's a different philosophy and theory. But all I am saying that a common man, it gets influenced more if he or she is poor and illiterate. They can be influenced much better and faster than those people who are literate.
So the same question I will ask you, Tahir, that how should Canadian in this very, very difficult situation should respond?
You know, Canadians, of course, of all backgrounds, should openly condemn such activities. I'm emphasizing condemnation because it is the first step. And when I say Canadians from all backgrounds should condemn it, so it included our own communities first and foremost. And then there's a need to engage into open dialogue, there should be a frank, candid discussion. It's not like that just there's vigil going on and saying, okay, interfaith, oh, there is no problem, you are brother and sister, we are brother and sister, let's make this world better. No, things don't work that way anymore. Things work, first bring your sort of a difference of opinion with each other and bring all those reactionary groups together. Before those reactionary groups explode, they should sit together and they should say, okay, we have these complaints, we are not happy because you guys are not speaking out. So we need to learn each other, we need to listen to each other about the complaints, and then we can move forward.
Is it practical in this world? No. We cannot bring those people together because their thinking is irrational. They don't have the rational thinking. They are one mindset people. So make them to sit. For example, I tell you, Tahir, you will agree with me, that Pope has come out openly many times condemning all kinds of terrorism. But do we see that in other communities? No, we haven't. That kind of an attitude should be there among religious leaders, wherever they are. But whether we can bring the irrational people together on the table, to me it looks difficult, because our leaders, as long as democracy is concerned, they are basically vote bank oriented. As long as they are vote bank oriented, they will not have the guts to take some strong steps, because they always think after 4 years whether I or she will be elected or not. That thinking has to go away. Even if you are elected for 4 years, do something with guts and show to the masses.
Don't you think that the bigger changes were happening in the world which we used to live were due to the open discussions which we call the freedom of expression by the intellectuals and by those who make the difference into the world, like for so many people? And if we will stop that dialogue, stirring those debates, I think he meant with that we should...
There is freedom, by the way. I mean, don't talk about Canada. Even in America, Trump doesn't allow you to say many things. Even today I was listening and he says, I will not allow Facebook and I will not allow the other companies to act the way they want to. They will have to act the way I want. That's not a freedom. That's a number one. Number two, in India, if you speak anything against the government, you are absolutely executed by the masses.
Okay, so let's come back to Canada. And
I would like to add just one thing before we move to Canada. Trump probably wouldn't say that I would not allow. He doesn't like some few things. He has a very strong opinion, and I don't agree with President Trump's that stance. But at least in the United States, things are much better in terms of freedom. And even in India, I would say, yes, there are issues. We can see rise of little extremism in the wake of election, and unfortunately, that is so natural in that part of the world. But they at least don't lack basic freedom.
7 billion people, maybe 2 billion people have little bit freedom. Persecution in India at this time is number one. America also, many so-called correspondents, I don't fully agree with them. Many correspondents belonging to New York, belonging to Washington Post, they are little hesitant of saying openly something against the president today. This is the situation. Yes, there is a freedom. That's why Watergate became one of the best we have seen the case in the world, and whether this case of Russian interference, whether it would come into the front or not. But all I am saying, there is a new mindset going on. You will agree with me, even in Europe, where they are curbing the activities of the freedom of the mind. Journalists, Poland, Hungary, Romania, many other countries which were totally so-called free, now You cannot say anything against
Okay,
it.
let's come back to Canada and let's talk about little bit of budgeting, because as you said that poor is not getting enough. So where will we be going? Because we were supposed to be a rich country full of resources, and the way the liberals are spending and the way we are going, what will be into the pockets of our kids? So where we are going to take our generation? Let's forget about the world. Let's talk about ourselves.
I don't blame the politicians. I blame the people. Because when people think that we are getting something, they forget about how they are getting. They think, oh, we are getting it. Okay, now today, I mean, the latest figure which I know is over $1 trillion we are in debt. Over $1 trillion. And that has to be paid once in a while. Whether I don't think we will be able to see that balance in our life, but our kids and then their kids, they have to pay for it. So I personally feel anything where in good economy you are taking debt is not a good economics. You see, most of the times we have seen, we saw in 2008 when there was a recession, that billions and trillions of dollars were invested by all the governments in the world, including even China. Okay, they also did it. But when you are doing well, your economy is doing well, your unemployment is at the lowest level. Why would you like to take the debt just to please the people? We are giving you this. We are giving you this.
And we are having
That's
a lot of it's a lot of debate that where the money is going.
No, that's a political gimmick.
Yes. So let's take your take, Tahir, on that.
I'm not sure about the numbers in terms of the debt we are going into, but I know one thing for sure: when the previous conservative government left, they actually left some surplus. And unfortunately, within the 4 years, we are into hell of debt. And I agree with Dr. Sharda that who's going to pay that debt? Of course, our future generation. And of course, we Canadian today, we are paying this through different means, by carbon tax, by other means. So it's a terrible situation. It's a beautiful country. Our country is a beautiful country. And Liberal government must understand that they shouldn't put Canadians into that heavy debts. But unfortunately, that's the way they are operating. And this is causing a lot of economic burden on Canadian for sure.
These are endless debates. We can talk, but we have shed light upon certain subjects. I thank you both for being here to give us such a lightened debate today. Viewers, thank you very much for watching News and Views Bulletin with me today.